What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, it's transfer tips for game week 24. So I'm going to go through some of the popular players that are being moved in and out of our squads and discuss whether they are a good move for this week or whether you should wait for a little bit longer. So if you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and let's jump into it. All right, let's start off with Kevin De Bruyne, who's been massively frustrating for anyone that's owned him for a little while. Man City have actually had two double game weeks since the World Cup. In the first one in game week 20, he got no minutes whatsoever against Spurs. They played them again in game week 22. He was benched, came on, got no returns. Now, to be fair, his minutes are usually pretty good. He was just benched in those two games for tactical reasons. And then we move on to double game week 23. Man City have already played against Villa. De Bruyne played pretty well. They scored 3 goals, but again, no return. So it's not been ideal for anyone that's owned him for a little while. And look, he's a quality player. He could easily get 10 plus points against Arsenal in the second game of double game week 23. But I feel like no matter what happens in that game at this stage, people want to move him on, like nearly 50,000 FPL managers have already done. They've had enough. They don't need to see the Arsenal game. And the obvious swap is just to go to Mo Salah, especially if you can do it in one move, because he's got a double game week in game week 25. And last night has got nothing to do with that opinion. If Salah had blanked against Everton, I still think that is basically a no-brainer move because of the double game week. And then you can see what happens afterwards in the FA Cup, because if Fulham lose to Leeds in the FA Cup, Liverpool would then play in game week 28 as well, when a lot of teams are going to blank. So I can't really see what other move you would want to make. Like, you could go from De Bruyne to Mahrez because he's nearly 5 million cheaper and getting pretty regular minutes, but you'd need those funds for a pretty good reason, right? Which could be to go to Harry Kane, who's also got some pretty good fixtures coming up, but neither City or Spurs have got a double game week on the horizon. It wouldn't be until double game week 29 at the earliest, and they're also more likely to blank in game week 28 than Liverpool are. It might be that all of Liverpool, Spurs and Man City blank in 28, but the one that's more likely to play, or at least got better chance of playing, is Liverpool. So I can't see why you would use 2 transfers to go to Kane just to avoid that double game week, right? It is worth saying that I think, and I've said this for a long time, even though the points haven't already always shown it, the Salah is just a better option than De Bruyne anyway. His minutes are better. De Bruyne's are good, but they're not as good as Salah's. He's on penalties, even though Liverpool haven't had any so far, and his goal threat is higher. It's worth noting, I guess, from the Everton game last night that Firmino and Jota both got minutes off the bench. So that could impact Salah at some point, right? If they're going to stick to this front three, Klopp could play Jota on the right, Nunez or Gakpo on the left, and then any of Gakpo, Nunez or Firmino central. But let's be honest, we know what Salah's minutes are like. He's an absolute machine, even around Champions League games. He pretty much always starts. So it's a no-brainer move for me. The only question is, do you do it in game week 24 or 25? Because the double isn't until 25, and I think even with De Bruyne playing Bournemouth away, you just make that move. I wouldn't do it this week. Yes, Liverpool played better last night, but that was a home game against Everton. If they couldn't kind of be up for a Merseyside derby, then that team was probably actually just finished, right? Now they've got to go away to Newcastle, which is a much more difficult fixture. And I know when I kind of said that last night, a few Newcastle fans think that Liverpool will go there and score, possibly even win, but it is just a much more difficult fixture on paper, whereas De Bruyne has got Nottingham Forest away. And as I've said, his minutes have been pretty good. The 2 games against Spurs, tactical because they were playing a back 5. Nottingham Forest aren't playing that at the moment, so I think De Bruyne will start in that game. And although I don't think he's as good an FPL option as Salah, I think when the fixtures are what they are, you can just delay that move until game week 25. The only reason I can see to make it this week is if you think there's a genuine chance that De Bruyne could either get benched or possibly come off early, like in the 60th, 70th minute. But I just don't see it. I think he'll play. Obviously, see what happens in the Arsenal game, see if he picks up a knock or anything like that. But as long as he comes through unscathed, whether he gets 2 points, 10 points, 20 points, I think you can keep him for Nottingham Forest and make that switch to Salah in game week 25. Keep an eye on price changes and stuff like that. If De Bruyne looks to be going down or Salah up and something like that, maybe you can make it earlier. But I think if I had De Bruyne, even though I'd be hugely frustrated at this stage, I would give him the Nottingham Forest game and then make the switch to Salah in 25. So with a goal against West Ham and a price tag of 7.5 million, João Félix is proving popular already. And I've got to be honest, I'm finding it difficult to pick out reasons why you shouldn't go for him. Like, if you look at the fixtures, Southampton at home is a decent fixture. Obviously, they've sacked Nathan Jones now. There's reports going around that Jesse Marsch might be confirmed as the new manager. That might have already been confirmed by the time you watch this video, but that's still a good fixture on paper. Spurs away is going to be a little bit tougher, but they've now lost Bentancur, so that will help Chelsea a little bit. Leeds at home is good. Leicester away isn't bad either. And in game week 28, they're playing Everton at home. Now, we know they did really well against Arsenal the other day, but against Liverpool they have shown that they are still going to concede goals, and more importantly, game week 28 is going to be a blank for a lot of teams, but not for Chelsea. So even if you were thinking about someone like Ivan Toney, because in 26 he's got Fulham at home and in 27 he's got the double, between now and 28 it's possible that João Félix will actually have one extra fixture, because he plays in 25 when Toney definitely blanks, and he plays in 28 when Toney may well blank, right? It looks pretty likely that will happen. So even with the additional fixture in 27, he'd still be one behind. So that's something to know. And also, João Félix could just be a placeholder at 7.5 million to switch to Toney in 27 if that's something that you wanted to do. So the only thing I can think of that might put me off is minutes. But as I said last week on the watch list video, I think Graham Potter going forward is going to have a core of 6 to 8 players that play pretty regularly, and I think João Félix is going to be one of those players. It would be nice if we could see what happens in and around the Champions League, but I think for anyone that wants to commit this week, I think it's a really good option. And right now there's not a huge amount of other forwards to go out and buy. Harry Kane is always the number one, or at least the number one after Haaland, right? So I guess that's the number 2, but he's much more expensive. Toney is blanking in 25, like I've already said. Most people have already set up for triple Arsenal. If not, Nketiah could still be a good move, but the longer you leave it to bring Nketiah in, the closer Gabriel Jesus is to being back. Mitrovic is someone that a lot of us are going to hold for the next couple of weeks, but I wouldn't maybe advise buying him. So there is just a lack of forward options, and we've only seen João Félix play twice against Fulham and West Ham, but he's impressed in both of those games, and like I said, I think his minutes are going to be good. So if I had 2 free transfers this week and I had the cash to do Mitrovic to João Félix, I would massively consider doing it, or if I just had another way to get him. Unfortunately I don't, unless Haaland happened to be out, right, and I could get him then, but I don't think that's likely, and I'd probably move to Harry Kane instead. But yeah, if you've got 7.5 million, you need a new forward, a guaranteed fixture in 25, a guaranteed fixture in 28. I think João Félix looks like a great pick. So I feel like Iheanacho has been a little bit wasted at Leicester. Don't get me wrong, since they came back up to the Premier League, obviously Jamie Vardy has done brilliantly, and I'm not suggesting for 1 minute they should have dropped him for Iheanacho, but I feel like he's good enough where he could have gone and been the number 9 at a different Premier League club. And since Vardy hasn't been able to play week in, week out, and has maybe lost some of that threat, they still haven't used Iheanacho enough. And as he's shown over the last 2 games, quite often when he gets minutes, he gets us FPL returns. So in game week 22 against Aston Villa away, he played 66 minutes, 1 goal, 2 assists. And in the home game against Spurs, where they just smashed them 4-1 in game week 23, he played 76 minutes, got 1 goal, 1 assist. And this has been a bit of a pattern. When players have been injured in the past, like Vardy, and Iheanacho has started regularly, he's got really good minutes. His goal threat is decent, his expected goal involvement numbers are just all round very good, especially for a player that costs 6.1 million. So people are interested, and nearly 25,000 FPL managers have already brought him in. The problem is, I'm always slightly worried he's not going to have the minutes going forward, because for some reason Brendan Rodgers always finds a reason to bench him at some point. He might play the next 1, 2, 3 games, but then he'll go and get benched. But not just that, the fixtures just aren't very good. I feel like, I mean, I'm not saying I would have brought him in for Spurs at home, but he's done really well in 22 and 23, but now he's got to go Man United away, Arsenal at home. Southampton away is not bad in 26, and that game in 25 is guaranteed when other teams are going to blank, but then it's Chelsea at home in 27, and the fixture in game week 28, if Leicester go through the next round of the FA Cup, that wouldn't be on either. So unfortunately, for those people who are saying, what do you think about Iheanacho, because he's absolutely smashed it in the last 2 weeks, I do like him. And I think even with those fixtures, you could maybe justify it because he's only 6.1 million. But I just think with bad fixtures and a possible blank in 28, there's better routes to go with your forwards, right? So if you've got Nketiah or Mitrovic, you can just hold them for a couple more weeks. And obviously, if you've got the cash, you're probably better off going for someone like João Félix or waiting to get Tony in game week 26. So it's a little bit unfortunate that the timing for him seemingly getting a few more minutes now and a few returns has just come at the wrong time. And I don't think that it's a guarantee that he blanks in 3 of the next 4 fixtures, but it's more likely than with the fixtures he's had recently. So I probably wouldn't go there. But if you do, I wish you luck because I think he's a really, really good player and he deserves regular playing time in the Premier League. There we go. Hopefully you enjoyed that one and found it useful. If you did, make sure to give it a like. And obviously, if you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button. It only takes 2 seconds. And I'd love to get to 350,000 before the end of the season. For any players that I haven't covered, any questions you've got, there's going to be a game week preview tomorrow, final thoughts on Friday. And I will wait to do team selection until Thursday so I can see what happens in the Arsenal-Man City game for the second game of double game week 23. So I'll leave that one there. Give it a like, hit subscribe, and I'll catch you again tomorrow.